Welcome back to U.S. Farm Report. Trusted, timely, tradition.
Well, not every state is smashing records this year, but there are a few. Dryness is also aiding progress for soybeans. 8 states are still planting in record time when it comes to soybeans across the country. But check out Illinois. 66% of the state's soybeans are already in the ground. The average, only 28%. Well, that's Illinois, but what about the other I states as well as other states in the Midwest? Michelle Rook hits the fields this weekend to see what unique circumstances farmers are seeing this year.
It was a cold start to the planting season here in Iowa, but with a break in the weather, farmers have been going full steam and progress is ahead of average. Planting progress in Iowa is at 70% on corn, nearly 50% on soybeans. Iowa farmer Kevin Ross says April was cold with soil temperatures below 50 degrees, so he didn't get started planting corn until the first week in May. But it's going well, and he's within his normal planting window.
The last 2 years for me, I haven't started or planted hardly any corn until around May 10th. We've hammered it in pretty quick right after that, and that, warm temps and at that point you're guaranteed warm temps, and that corn just pops right out and gets moving. So haven't felt like we've been very far behind with that.
With the cool soils, though, up until last week, Ross is actually farther ahead on soybean planting versus corn.
Tried to knock in a bunch of the beans, if not all of them, right away, and it's just turned out it's been working well for us from a yield standpoint.
In fact, he says they've been some of his best beans on his farm.
Last year we were in 60 to 70 bushel, which for us around here is really good. The year before that we were in the 70 to 80 range, which is exceptional for our area.
While it isn't showing up yet on the drought monitor, Ross says southwestern Iowa is still dry and could use some more rain.
I don't get worried about about drought too much in the April, May timeframe, but if we miss a lot of April, May rains, then all of a sudden I'm very concerned going into the June, July portion of the growing season. So we got to have something in the tank when we start hitting those the hit or miss times for us.
But he's not overly worried yet, since the last 2 seasons have been dry in his area and he turned out with above average yields.
Yeah, corn yields last year for us was the second best year that I had around here. We ended up in the mid 2s on almost everything. Just ended up with a really, really good corn yield, and like I said, bean yield wasn't disappointed at all either. So the last couple of years have been a couple of the best years yield wise that I've ever had. So hopefully we can keep that up.
Ross applied his fertilizer last fall, but farmers that did not in Iowa and along the northern Mississippi River had difficulty getting product when the river shut down due to flooding, as it had to move by rail. The good news is that the locks are starting to open and barge traffic is resuming as the river crested earlier than forecast.
We're exiting in most of these locations the major flood stage designation and moving into moderate flood stage or even minor flood stage, and that certainly is beneficial to the communities that are adjacent to the river. For barge transportation, that's beneficial.
He says as a result, the Army Corps of Engineers has announced the locks on the upper Mississippi River that have been closed due to high water levels have opened or will reopen later this week.
What we're seeing is a number of these locks that the Army Corps of Engineers had to close for a period of time due to the high water levels. They're able to reopen those. Many of them have already been reopened, and we anticipate seeing the balance of those reopened in the next 2 to 3 days. So seeing that whole system, that upper Mississippi River system, roughly from Minneapolis, St. Paul, all the way to St. Louis being fully operational, which is good news.
Steenhoek says while the lock closure slowed fertilizer movement, soybean exports were largely unaffected, as the volume is modest right now compared to harvest season. For U.S. Farm Report, I'm Michelle Rook.
Thanks, Michelle. Well, there doesn't seem to be a lot of crop supply concerns right now in the U.S. At least that's what prices are telling us in the markets. But there are concerns about demand. We'll get into that a little more with Matt Bennett and Joe Vaclavic next.